Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. I see we already have some comments on YouTube in the live chat today, so that's cool. Thank you guys for getting in here early. Guess we have some people that are excited for the streams today. We have a lot of great topics to go through. Questions from Dewey Trong and Alumo Rock Capital. So when George gets in here, we will get to both of those questions right away. The markets are green today across the board, with the Russell being the leader index on the day. QQQ is up about 0.75%. Actually, all of them are around that range. The VIX is down 4.5%, back down to 1561 currently as we are opening the stream. Let's get a live look at the QQQ and SPY net options sentiment levels, which I saw were a little bit higher than in our previous couple of days. Yes, and it's still looking that way. So the SPY is at 11 and the QQQ is at 10. So both up teeny tiny bit off the basement levels where they were at to begin this week. So maybe with the jobs data we're expecting tomorrow, and if QQQ and SPY net options keep rising, we could see a little bit of a bullish momentum re-entering the market. MSTR. So for the S&P 500 inclusion, I believe I saw an interesting post by Heisenberg, which we've referenced before in the streams, where AppLovin is up like 10% and Robinhood and MSTR are down like 10% in the past month or something like that. So he was kind of alluding to the fact that he believes it's going to be AppLovin added tomorrow. So we will see. Let me take you all through some of the topics we're going to be discussing today on stream before George gets in here. And if I could just ask you guys to like it up if you're watching on Twitter, X, or YouTube. Good for the algos. I will even boost and like it up from the Prospero account on both to help you guys. But I appreciate everybody that's coming to the streams, liking it up. Thank you guys. But without further ado, let's get into these topics. So we're going to discuss the jobs number coming out tomorrow, as I stated. But then we're going to get into a lot of, actually, it's a busier earnings news story day than I had originally thought it was going to be. So we have Salesforce dropping after earnings, and we have Lululemon and Broadcom, Avgo earnings today after the bell, which I think both we talk about. Lulu we've talked about recently because they were looking good in the signals, but Avgo, a continually good-looking stock in the Prospero app. Let's see where they're at right now. At one point last year, they were actually the best-looking chip stock for several months. Okay, way lower in the signals now than they were back then. Upside is at 61, net options is at 51. So going to be interesting to hear what George has to say about both of those companies heading into earnings today. We have a lot of partnership updates for Amazon, which their stock is up today as well. They are announcing an update for their Project Kuiper, which we've talked about on the stream before. And I'm wondering if this announcement is the reason why ASTS is down so much today, more so than a lot of the other stocks. I think they were down as much as 8% at one point. And they had a partnership with JetBlue, Amazon that is, with their Project Kuiper. And then also announcing a partnership with Anthropic for data center partnership. So Amazon is up today, and Amazon is still actually below their all-time highs, which I was surprised when I was looking at their stock. One of the Mag 7 stocks still off their highs. There's a few others like it. So even though they're up today, maybe there's still some more meat on the bone there for them. So we'll discuss Amazon in detail. Then we have to discuss how Sydney Sweeney, everything she's touching is turning to gold. American Eagle stock up huge today. Let's get a live look at them. After they said the Sydney Sweeney partnership was the best partnership and ad campaign that they've ever had at the company. So they are up 35% today after this announcement. And I think it'll lead to an interesting discussion about, when companies are deciding who they're going to partner with, there's obviously like the A tier of names out there that you're going to have to pay up for. And then there's more of the B tier, who's maybe there's more value there. So I want to ask George, like, which strategy does he think is best for companies? Like, does the Sydney Sweeney story prove that it's worth it to pay up, especially maybe if you're like in the fashion industry, um, like American Eagle? Then I want to bring up Figma on the stream today because they are actually now down big after they had their first earnings as a public company. And they are well below the IPO price of $90 per share, currently at $55 today. So it seems like the IPO craze is wearing off, at least for Figma stock, which has been basically straight down since the first day or two of hype in the name. With it declining this much, is it an interesting buy the dip candidate at this point? Or is it just time to stay away and see where the dust settles for a company like this that is so new to the public markets? And then last but not least on the stream, I want to bring up DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, all the sports books that are public. Um, with the NFL set to begin today, I have a stat of the total estimated legal betting that is expected to take place during the NFL season, and it is quite a total. So, should you buy these stocks leading into the NFL season? Good luck to all of our fantasy players out there. But that's all we have to talk about on the stream today. We'll do the model portfolio update as usual at the end of the stream. If any of you have any questions throughout the stream today, feel free to comment them in our chat, whether you're watching on X or YouTube. Some people have already left some comments, so we are happy to get to all of the questions that you may have. Without further ado, we'll just wait for George and take a look around the markets. I want to check in on all of the Mag 7 names. Let's see. Apple is currently red, although only 0.01%, so basically flat. Amazon green, Google green. We'll have to talk about the Apple and Google news too on the stream today. I don't think I had that in the list of topics, but it sent Google flying and Apple up a little bit as well. So we'll discuss that at some point, I'm sure. Meta green, Microsoft green, Tesla green, looking like a good day to be a large cap tech stock. Let's look at NVIDIA. NVIDIA is also green, but just ever so slightly, up 0.06% on the day now. We can take a look at Google, not Google, Bitcoin. I like to track them and see how Bitcoin, see how it's moving with the market. So Bitcoin is actually red today. And it's been interesting. Bitcoin has been, I feel like, a little weaker than the overall market as of late. I'm wondering what that means for the current dynamics playing out in the market. Seems like on a lot of green days, Bitcoin is still either only slightly in the green or even in the red, like it is today, down 1%. And let's check out gold because we had highlighted them on Monday. Gold was breaking out. The chart was looking interesting because there was a quintuple top. 5 times gold had hit the same level and gotten rejected, and it finally broke through it. So gold is red today, but it's still right near its all-time highs. I'm looking at the Spider Gold Trust GLD. It hit a high of 329 on September 3rd yesterday. It's currently at 326 and well above that level of about $317 per share, 316.17, where it got rejected a few times. You know what I could do while we're waiting here? I could ask you guys. I try to cover the stocks on the streams that you guys, want to hear about most. So if there's any stocks that we haven't covered really on the streams and you want me to start following them and bringing them up if there's news about them, feel free to comment them in the chat right now. That would be helpful so I can, bring up the stocks that you guys are wanting to hear about most. Hello, George. Welcome to the stream today. So we are having quite the green day in the markets here. The QQQ is not quite leading. It's actually interesting. The Russell is up the most today, but it seems like the mega cap tech stocks are the ones doing a lot of the work today. And we're even seeing the SPY and the QQQ net option sentiment in Prospero creep higher off the lows today, although they're not quite, actually, they're not really even close to the 40 level we look for, but they are up from that, single digit 0 to 5 range. SPY is at 13 now. QQQ is at 11. A lot of people are pointing to the jobs report we're getting tomorrow as a piece of bullish data for the market because it's going to confirm rate cuts that are, just right around the corner now. How do you think the market will react to the jobs report tomorrow? Do you lean towards a bullish reaction? And then I have a follow-up question about the rate cuts when they actually do most likely occur later this month. But we'll start with the jobs report tomorrow in the market today.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to see what I do. I feel like I got a little burned um on last week when we saw QQQ net option sentiment like creep up to 30 and then the market shift really fast. So, it's a tough situation when you see that. Like the market is just not, sustaining rallies like it has. So um, I think I might, add a little bit to the position, but it's difficult. It's difficult when, we kind of see this back and forth.
So, question about the rate cut when it likely does come later this month. I saw someone refer to it as the most anticipated rate cut in the history of the stock market. Do you think that's true, first off? And then, if that's true, do you think, people tend to believe a rate cut is bullish for the market? If it's already so priced into the market, do you think the market will react when we finally have it occur?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll definitely react because it's been so long since there's been one, right? I think there's still probably some people are, waiting to just be like, well, is this going to happen? Like, not really know officially. But I think when it's official, it will, for that reason, because it's been so long that there will be a bullish reaction.
So I want to get to some of the questions that we had from our YouTube chatters before you got in here. So Dewey Trong asked, do you think app and hood will be added to the SPY this time? I believe there's a inclusion update tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely seeing App and Hood, um, you know, have some positive price action. I haven't checked Hood in the signals in a bit, but because I soured on it a little bit, but it's doing well today. A lot of financials are doing well today. I mean, it's rebounding, it's rebounding quite a bit. App is looking good, although I've been thinking about adding app, but I've been hesitant with since its upside has gone down to 68, which is obviously like way below where we typically see it. So yeah, I mean, I've been burned betting on it, but sometimes I've been saying that that's been, that's even more likely, but um it's even more likely that it's going to happen. But I think for both of those stocks, because they've had some negative news headlines, I think that's causing the selection committee to stay away from them a little bit, because their market caps would dictate. I mean, when we looked at XYZ getting added, right? Block. I think at the time, I think the minimum market cap of, I think XYZ was around 50 billion and Robinhood was close to 100. And I think, what is Apple? I think it was close to 150, right? So that's telling you that there is something to it, right? Because sometimes you'll see larger market cap names not get added. But a lot of the times that's because they don't necessarily have retail attention or knowledge, and the S&P is just like, well, this might be too boring. But typically not as large as AppLovin is and as much energy as it has behind it. I'm very surprised that it hasn't been added. And it's kind of hard to choose between okay, does that make it do? Or because it's been overlooked, does that mean it will be continue to be overlooked? I don't think I could bet on it this time. Of course, how luck goes sometimes is like you end up not betting on it, and then it happens. But I've been burned twice on this, so I'm not gonna put my money on it. But you know, both of these stocks are going to get added sooner or later, right? Especially because they're not done growing, they're not done getting larger market cap, and they can't be ignored forever. That being said, I'm not going to bet on it this time. I might like seeing where Hood is. I might add Hood just because if it goes above like, if it goes above, let's say, uh, you know, 90 net option sentiment, I see it at, whoa, oh, that's app. I was like, oh, it's at 97. I forgot I moved to app. If it goes above 90 net option sentiment, I might look to add it. But, just this one is just too hard to odds make right now.
So I want to reference this tweet from our
Oh,
buddy
I will say,
Heisenberg.
sorry, one more thing. I
Mhm.
hadn't looked at it. I will say there's a very interesting move and downside on Robinhood. Downside on September 3rd was at 29 at close, and it's at 19 today. So that's an interesting thing to note in terms of maybe more reasons to get into Robinhood.
So Heisenberg tweeted about this S&P 500 inclusion, and he gave stats about the performance of App, Hood, and MSTR over the past couple of weeks. And AppLovin is plus 13%, and Hood and MSTR are minus 13% in their performance. And he was kind of alluding to the fact that maybe people are knowing what's coming. Do you put any weight into that? The fact that AppLovin has vastly outperformed those other stocks in the past couple of weeks?
Um, no, I don't think so. I think AppLovin's a really, I think, AppLovin is a stock that I think is a very, very positive revenue, like, growth. Like, I think the only specter over it is like some of the short selling, whether they might be, inflating their numbers or anything like that. But it's a super solid company. I'm not surprised it's doing well, especially if there's more market uncertainty. Names that have like less revenue, like Robinhood, and then ones that like MSTR, that it like that's not really necessarily, that's moving a lot more. Bitcoin is somewhere between like a commodity and a stock that people speculate on. So I don't think you can read too much into that. But I think there was some perception that Robinhood got a little overpriced, and I think especially after I got hit, I think AppLovin was a bit of a better deal. Like, we can even just look right now. Like, I'm looking at PE ratios. So yeah, so AppLovin is at 67.09, right? Wow, Robinhood's really come down a bit too. So they're about at the same. Um, but obviously that's after Robinhood moved down a little bit and AppLovin moved up. No, actually, yeah, I think that's a weird number. That this is more what I thought. Like, I'm seeing on Y charts, the PE ratio. Like, I was seeing something on Nasdaq or whatever. But let's get something accurate here. What is the current PE of Robinhood? Because that sounded higher. Yeah, these numbers are all over the place. This says the current PE is 52. So yeah, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But I've seen way different numbers for Robinhood on different things, so that's something to look into. But it kind of probably feeds into, after looking at that, maybe Robinhood is the better buy.
Mm-hmm. So I want to spin to mega cap tech land because we have some updates from Amazon that I want to go through first, but then we'll get into the Google and Apple situation that sent them both flying higher. So first of all, Amazon has some partnership updates. Their Project Kuiper that we've brought up before on the stream officially agreed to a partnership with JetBlue that isn't expected to begin fully until 2027. But I'm wondering if this is why we're seeing ASTS down a little bit more than most other stocks today. I think at one point they were down like 7 or 8%. Not sure if they're still down that low now, but update from Amazon in that sense there. And then they also announced a partnership with Anthropic for data centers, and Amazon is up on this news today. So, firstly, how do you gauge the situation with the Amazon Project Kuiper and the effect on ASTS? Do you think that's legitimate?
I mean, I think ASTS and Rocket Lab were running pretty strongly. And we actually saw net option sentiment on ASTS go down a little bit. But yeah, when there's so much speculation over this, yeah, that's got to be scary, right? It's got to be scary anytime. Like, I think ASTS a lot is like, it's kind of priced to be a leader in you know, let's call it like, sending signal to people from space, right? But if Amazon is getting into that, as Amazon is starting to make partnerships, maybe you have to start to price, these things a little more modestly, especially because Amazon wins often.
So Amazon is still below their all-time high, and I'm not sure how they fit in with the whole, tariff saga and inflation mix. Do you think they are, set to keep running even, with the momentum they're getting today? How do you feel about them versus the other mega caps? And we're about to get into Google and Apple and, the bunch of them.
I mean, we kind of almost always say the same thing about this, which is Amazon, in terms of like how we view it, and I think a lot of people view it, is a victim of its own success. Where I think it often looks very expensive, and that's why it is only made a few. I love it as a company; it's one of the best companies over the next 10 years, in my opinion. But I think the options markets, especially like the long term ones, can get so they can only get so bullish about it because it's always priced, so aggressively for where it's at. So yeah, I think that that's a tough one. Um, but uh, yeah, I think that a lot of I think Google's looking very interesting now. Especially on the other side of that, the way it's being priced, it looks good in our signals. Meta has a bit of a slump, looking really good in the signals. Nvidia all of a sudden is looking very, very good in our signals after it's at times with lower upside. So yeah, you know I think people, especially in the options markets, which hurts our like clarity over this, they have a hard time getting like excited about Amazon on the valuation. So that's almost always our answer. We love it as a company. You know, I would bet on it over any other company, but over the next 10 years, but we are always going for where we can see the most movement, especially in the short term. And that, this never really leads us towards Amazon.
So, with the Apple and Google situation having been cleared up, the judge ruled that their relationship can continue where Google is paying to be the primary search provider. I mean, Google reacted a lot, or Alphabet reacted a lot off this news. It's up about 11% in the past week. Apple was up slightly from it. Um, are you surprised to see just how much Google reacted and the fact that they are now, cruising to their highest all-time high ever? I mean, the previous all-time high was 200 and about, $6 per share, and now they're up towards 230 recently. And then, so the question I always ask, like, if you don't own Google and now you're excited, should you wait for a pullback? How would you manage that?
I mean, when we kind of saw some of the stuff coming at the beginning, in terms of, AI coming on, and, we always kind of looked at it and we're just like, I don't know why people aren't more bullish on Google because of their position. They have a great cloud business. And like, we always talk about cloud as a big growth business. Um, Especially with the signals they are, I like, Google, I think is as well positioned as a company to continue to see growth from AI. They never seem to put it all together, especially when it comes to introducing new products. But I think this search defense, I think this was a big thing, you know, and I also think one of the things I love about Google is YouTube. Like I use it more and more. I think more and more people are using it for, TV. Um, and yeah, especially like when I'm traveling, a lot of TVs, will have like Google on it. And, I watch more and more like documentary type things, which is like good for me. But it's just like, that's where Google's algorithms shine, right? Because I think a lot of what has me in YouTube more um, is uh, the fact that they have a really well curated algorithm for me. And I don't feel like if I log into other things, I don't really feel like um, other algorithms, even Netflix, I don't feel is as good at finding things that I might want to watch that aren't necessarily as closely related to what I watched already. Um, I think Google is, really kind of good on the explore stuff. And, I think Google has a really, we talked about it before, whether it be like these kids shows that, I think kids watch a lot of YouTube now. But, I feel like they have a really, really good relationship with these live streamers. And I think that kind of thing is a big part of the future. So I love the YouTube business. I love I think Google has got their fingers in a lot of pies. Like even if you just say like YouTube and cloud, even if you hate the search business, like which there are more threats than ever, but it's also just like a product with a huge moat that we've talked about. Um, we've talked about in terms of the fact that like, yeah, maybe if even a lot of younger people start using things like Perplexity, I mean, I guess, me, I'm not so young anymore. But I've switched over to Perplexity a lot. But I still think there's a lot of people that are just very stuck in their ways that, even if there's a far superior product out there, they're going to be in Google. So yeah, I mean, I like Google. I wish I could add Amazon more, to be honest, because I like it. But it never seems to be there in terms of the value.
Yeah, I agree. I'm a big YouTube user as well, although the US Open has been taking a lot of my watch hours recently, stealing some Google timeshare. But I want to bring up Salesforce today also because they are down after their earnings. And I'm wondering, are we in a transition period right now for a lot of these companies, the likes of like Salesforce, Adobe, and some of they were once thought of to be like the up and coming tech stocks, it seems like they're more shifting towards becoming more of like the IBMs, the Ciscos, like kind of yesterday's technology. Would you agree? And do you think some of these big tech companies are kind of becoming more like legacy tech companies and not as exciting at this point?
Yeah, I mean, someone was asking me about Salesforce earnings at Salesforce yesterday, and I steered them away from it. Like, yeah, I think it's a very real thing. Um, and uh, there's a lot when you look at these businesses, and when you look at these businesses that are like, Benioff talking about like firing a lot of people because of AI and making it redundant. But it's just like you kind of look at their business and you say like, okay, like what are they really good at? Organizing information so you can find it, right? But isn't an AI kind of going to be better at that? Right? Like, doesn't that kind of take away their moat? If Benioff is out here being like, I can eliminate a lot of jobs, I have like AI, like, couldn't you say the same thing about their database? Right? Because if the big problem why you create the database is like, oh, I need to know who I talk to and all that stuff. But you're moving to an AI assistant, you're moving to a virtual assistant that you can kind of say, you know, tell me all the people I need to follow, tell me all the people I need to follow with. Who did I call last Thursday? Like, what was the content? Like, you could start interacting with AIs in like I'd say a much better way than Salesforce. So yeah, I do worry, and it's kind of the same thing that we say about Nvidia all the time, which is just like, well, as long as they keep innovating, new technologies aren't really that scary, right? But I think in the case of Salesforce, I don't really think of Salesforce as a company that is good at continually innovating. I think they had some good innovations that they're kind of like riding off the laurels of, but like I can't really name, maybe people out there like, can you name a lot of good innovations that Salesforce had, or did they just like come around with the right product at the right time? And maybe they will, right? Maybe they will come up with that AI assistant that makes it a lot easier. But like we're talking about, it's a race to the bottom with these things, right? So like I'm sure, maybe they come out with that AI assistant, but maybe they're not able to charge as much with it because right now Salesforce is a product with less competition. And also you're kind of ingrained in that database. There are very high switching costs for a company that already has Salesforce. But if all of a sudden, people are switching anyway, that becomes harder to like keep people in at higher prices. But B, even if you do win, you probably can't charge as much because your moat will be smaller because of this new product. And that's the thing about AI that's so interesting. It's like anyone can make products, right? And gain users and things like that. It's so much easier. Even if you can't code, you can make a product. But the other side to that is it's harder to make a moat. It's much more ubiquitous because of just what we said. Anyone can do it. So yeah, like I mean, that's the interesting thing. You have Salesforce, maybe they're cutting a bunch of of staff, but it's going to be so hard for them to compete on price if a company that has maybe 10 people can roll out a very similar AI product to what they have. It's very hard for a company with all that infrastructure, payroll, all that stuff to compete. And I think that's the age that we're entering in. And that's where it's different than hardware, right? I think when you're someone like Nvidia, you still have that moat, and we talk about it right all the time. Like even if AMD, and we've talked about this, AMD now has by and large, and everybody accepts this, cheaper per token operations. But why do they still have like I think this year they're forecasted to max out at a 5% market share, because Nvidia, even in this age, still has that moat. It still has this CUDA moat, where if you're already using Nvidia products, you can't say like, oh, well, maybe 25% of our new servers are going to be AMD, even though 75%, are still going to be Nvidia. You can't really do that because of the CUDA, platform that you're already engaged in. Those servers won't be able to communicate with each other, and that's key, especially to operational efficiency. So I think that's where it changes. But yeah, it's certainly interesting.
And we have another interesting earnings day today. A company that's looked good in our signals recently, Lululemon, has earnings after the bell, but also Broadcom as well. So big earnings day. I want to get your opinion on both of them. We checked out the signals for Broadcom. They didn't look too great, to be honest, compared to where I remember them being when they were like the leading chip stock, sometimes during parts of last year in our signals. But yeah, just what are your expectations looking at our signals for the earnings today?
I mean, Broadcom has really soured in our signals, like as much as any stock that I've seen. What was the other stock?
Lululemon.
Lululemon is the opposite story, right? I think it's really turned around. Not enough that I'd really want to bet on it. One of the things that was kind of interesting at Lululemon is my fiance was talking about how during the tariff situation, you could basically buy, you could buy knockoff Lululemon stuff. And so ever since I heard that, I've been worried about like any, high price clothing brand. Granted, they've been hit and they could be a value. I'd much rather bet on Lululemon today than Broadcom. That looks to be on the wrong end of it. When Nvidia signals have really gone up the last, 3 months, Broadcom has gone in the opposite direction. That's not a situation where I really want to bet.
Trying to look at Broadcom's market cap right now, because so they are at 1.4 trillion. So if they lay a stinker for earnings and they're down 10% or so, just let's say a random number, that's going to drag on like the whole chip sector you would expect, and probably like tech overall, right? Or no?
I don't know about that. I mean, I think we do have some strong reactions to some of these earnings. But yeah, I mean, it would have to be really bad. Like Broadcom kind of has some unique kind of chips makeup to them. Like I think like something like ON Semiconductor, like they have a little more overlap with Broadcom, but no, I mean, I don't like I think what could really scare people is if they're guiding towards reduced demand. And that reduced demand could be conceived as affecting a lot of these chip manufacturers. But on the other hand, like we've already seen strong cloud. So even if they're like, we're seeing reduced, we're worried about reduced demand, anything like that, like with cloud being strong, that kind of makes it look like it's their problem and not other people's problem. But like I'm saying, if there's a closer business, Qualcomm's another one. If there's a closer business to Broadcom, I think that that's more relevant. But I don't really see it affecting companies like Nvidia.
So for Lululemon, if they go down on earnings today, they might have to implement the American Eagle strategy, because American Eagle is up, I think, about 36% today. And the reason behind this is the Sydney Sweeney effect. They said the ad campaign with her was their most successful ad campaign of all time. And I wanted to bring up this story less so about American Eagle, more so about like, I feel like companies have the decision whether they're going to pay up for that like premium partner, like a Sydney Sweeney, who's like an A-list celebrity and obviously has a huge effect on things in today's world. Do you think that's a good strategy? Is it risky? Obviously, it worked out for American Eagle this time because then there's other companies that, they'll get like a mid-level B-tier celebrity to sponsor their brand. Do you think it's always worth like getting that like that it person, the person who's hot at the time? Is it worth paying that huge premium? And we're seeing American Eagle up from doing that.
Um, It really depends, right? I don't think it's like the A-list celebrity thing. I think they've caught some lightning in a bottle a little bit. I think they had a very good plan with her, right? You can't just throw money at any celebrity and be like, "Oh, it's going to work." Like actually, I'd say more often than not when you're throwing these large paychecks at celebrities, like I almost always think it's the opposite. I think it's a waste of money. But I think with her, they had a good plan. I don't know if they also had this plan to release the fact that she was a registered Republican or who did that, but I think that's certainly, helped. I think by the way, it's a very good plan to figure out a way to get Donald Trump to talk about whatever you're talking about, right? I think that amplified um amplified it. And so like I think that overall, like, it's one of those things. If it was like if they also timed that, voter registration thing, it was genius. Um, but I don't think this is universal. And I also think so much of marketing is originality, right? I think if some other brand hired Sydney Sweeney and tried to do the same thing, it wouldn't get the same attention, and people would probably think it was pretty lame, and it would probably cost them more because Sydney Sweeney's people are like, I know how much this added to the market cap now. So you always kind of have to be original. But there's got to be other ways. Like I think especially if you could be like, how do I get one of the Trumps to start talking about this? Like, I think there's a lot of juice in that. And as we saw with Cracker Barrel, right, there's a lot of juice even in pissing them off if you can remedy the situation in a good way, right? I think I forget what the exact Trump quote was, but it was something like, they have an opportunity here. They've got a bunch of free marketing, very hard, but there's an opportunity. And I think that might be a formula that we continue to see more of. But no, I think most marketing where you hire like a celebrity, like I think I kind of talk about Super Bowl marketing in the same way. And I think it's kind of vanity more than anything, right? Because I think you want to say, oh, we got this celebrity, and maybe you want to like say you met them, like you're the CEO, you met them, or you're like, oh, did you see our new commercial with like that person? Like, so I think that like sometimes it is just that plan, and that's dumb. Where you're just like, oh, I bet if we got, I don't think Tom Hanks does any ad. So this is probably good. I bet if we got Tom Hanks, everybody would pay attention to us. And it's like, well, maybe if you have some dumb commercial, but sometimes you can go so dumb that it actually works and people are talking about it. But if it's just a little dumb and nobody talks about it, you're going to be burning through a lot of money pointlessly. And the other thing about these commercials is like, I talk about this all the time. And like someday I think they're good, like AI is going to make people smarter about this. I actually think the amount of money you spend on like a Super Bowl commercial and big actors in it and like all that stuff, I actually think it would be better spent giving intelligent discounts, right? And actually tying it to sales. Like whether it's people leaving your product or people that you're going to try and get to try your product that you can give free trials to, that are longer. Like I actually think that's money better spent, unless like I'm saying you actually have a really good idea, because I think there are marketing campaigns that are just beautifully executed and can change your business. But I also think there's just like way too much lazy, like, well, what if we got that person? And that's the extent of the idea. And I think that you'll almost never get an ROI on it if that's all your idea is.
So I want to turn now to Figma stock because they are down today after their first ever earnings as a public company. And the IPO craze has worn off for Figma, who went public at $90 per share and then crossed the 100 mark, I think got up to like 130. They're now trading at $54.94 today and down 19% today. Um, I guess the questions I have are just like, now that they're down almost, approaching 50% from the IPO price, does that begin to become an attractive entry? And was the IPO mispriced? How is it able to move up so much, down so much? Does it just show the level of like volatility and fervor in the markets? So yeah.
I mean, I think there's just a lot of craziness with these IPOs right now. Um, so like we've talked about this. I don't know if it's a problem with pricing. Um, Really hard to say. Um, what's right when they run up this much and then they come back down. I mean, bullish has slumped a little bit too. Um, but what I will say is like, look at their PE. Like they like I think you commented on like the revenue and like that's fine, but like at the end of the day, you do need to like earn, not just not just increase your revenue. And like, for something like core weave, I actually view it very differently. Um that uh that could be insane growth, right? You look at Figma and you're just like, oh, it's a nice product. But like, do I really see it like core weave potentially like 10xing this year, 10xing, the next year? No, I don't see that. So I think that's where I'm just like, I can get on board with being like, like I can wrap my head around being long core weave, if the numbers that we're looking at add up. But uh, I can't really do the same for Figma. I just don't see I don't see the growth of the business being so explosive um, that uh, that um, it justifies that.
So I have one more topic to discuss on stream today. I just want to thank all of our viewers that showed up today. Thank you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the topic so far. Like it up, follow us on X, subscribe on YouTube, and if you have any questions, feel free to comment them. We'll get to them before we do our switch over for the model portfolio. But I want to get to the kickoff of the NFL today. So with it, um, a big uptick in sports betting is expected to occur. And in fact, the American Gaming Association expects NFL betting to grow by 8.5% this year and up to $30 billion. So, should you buy into the public sports betting apps at this point? One. Two, do you think Robinhood could be affected or other apps that have come into gambling more so now that people are going to actually be betting on sports? Maybe Robinhood, it could affect their business negatively. And then three, these sports betting businesses are pretty new to the public markets. Do you expect they're going to trade very cyclically, like with the sports seasons, especially the NFL, which is like the biggest one for a lot of them? Over time, like when we look at their history, they're going to have a nice like seasonal pattern.
I mean, I think they're big, growth businesses without a doubt. I mean, all of them, like, and Robinhood too. Um, but uh, it's kind of hard, right? And I think what's hard is, they're going to grow, but like, is the situation going to sour? One, right? Like, I think right now, like, and probably like, I think we're in such like a deregulation mode with Trump, but like, I always wonder, like, how long until some kid loses a bunch of their parents' money on like a credit card or something, and that turns into a class action or whatever. Like, when we look at growth businesses and we're talking about different ones like Figma, CoreWeave, like whatever, like even if I'm being hard on Figma, I'm not like, I can't be like, well, there's like some event where they're going to lose a lot of their business, right? I can't really even fathom that. I mean, obviously, if there's a competitor, like any standard business things, if they're a competitor, if there's some big data breach, like anything like that, but those are for any business, right? I can't really think of anything specific to those businesses that would say like, well, they could lose a lot. Like, I think this rapid growth of these online gaming on these online betting things and the valuations that they trade at mean you're betting on continued crazy growth. So that's why I would rather bet on Robinhood than any of the other ones, because I do think you will get some of the same speculation that you get on the other ones without the same downside risk.
No, well said. But I don't see any questions in the chat. I think it's time to do the switchover. It's going to be interesting to see how you decide to shake things up today. The markets are still firmly in the green, so we'll catch up with you on the other side. Everybody,
Yeah.
stick around watching the stream. George will be right back. He's going to do the switchover. Our OG viewers know exactly what's going on, but for the new people in the stream, we will be doing the model portfolio update where George makes live switches to the model portfolio. So you'll get to see his moves as they occur. Let's get the latest look at the QQQ and SPY net options sentiment to see where we are at. At the beginning of the stream, they were both around, I believe, 10 and 11. So we'll see if they moved at all since then. Okay, I see the SPY at 8 currently, and the QQQ is up to 19. So after hitting, how low did the QQQ got all the way down to 0 on August 29th, and now it's up to 19. So well off the lows. The SPY for the entirety of 2025 has been lagging the QQQ. It was pinned at 0 for a few days, and now it is up to 8. So both are looking a little bit better today. Let's see how our earnings after the bell that we highlighted on the stream, how they are trading today, Lulu and Broadcom. Let's see if they are up or down. Okay, trying to find Lulu. Lulu is currently up 4% heading into the earnings today. Interesting. So a little bit of positive momentum building before the earnings, and Broadcom is up 1% today. So both of those stocks are up, and we're just about 15 to 20 minutes away from those reports. Let's see how many likes we got on YouTube today. We've been trying to hit that 20 like mark, but we're well short of it today. We're only at 9. We got to up those likes numbers. If you're watching on YouTube, like it up. If you're watching on X, maybe like on X and then head over to YouTube and throw us a like as well. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to us on YouTube. We're at 2.88K, so we're about 120 subscribers away from hitting 3,000, which would be an awesome number to hit by the end of the year. So let's try to do that. We have way more followers on Twitter than let's see what our Twitter follower count is at. Our Twitter has been growing or I keep calling it Twitter, our X has been growing like crazy. So X is at 22,000. So we got to catch up on YouTube. All right. I'm liking it on X as well, so I'll help all of you out today. Let's see if the market's moved also in the meantime since we've been live. All right, a little bit of a positive trend today, even while we've been live on stream. The Russell has now officially reached up 1% on the day, still leading the markets. The QQQ and the SPY and the Dow are all almost exactly the same, which is interesting to see. Usually there's a little bit more of a difference in the way they're moving, but almost everybody's up 0.75% today.
All the indexes?
Yeah, but the Russell is up 1%, so it's leading the rest.
Where are we on QQQ, SPY, and option sentiment?
So the QQQ is at 19 now, and the SPY is at 9.
Whoa.
Feeling a little bit more bullish?
I mean, like I said, it went up a lot last week, so I'm going to twist a little more, but Okay. Then we got ASTS yesterday. That was some good timing. Oh, oops, I did this wrong. I changed the wrong link. Okay.
Small caps leading the way, but good day all around. We will look to expand our smaller cap exposure on the bull side. Consumer discretionary and financials look like good bull targets, and utilities and consumer defensive on the bear.
Baidu is interesting. What was I doing? Like that is all going in here. Can you check what WAFD is, if those are wins or losses? And actually check the net option sentiment, because sorry.
All right, net options is at 28 currently.
Okay, that's fine.
That's all the info you needed. Mind is made.
Bad time to pause, but okay. Now let's look at these longs. Our long short skew is really taking care of itself. I think we want to Dell too. No, we don't. So hard to decide. now. Okay, so we have 43 of these, 36 of those. Okay, so I think this is going to work out well for us. I think we can do this. What's going on with and yeah, I don't really have time for that now. Sure. IBM. No, I think this is good. Keep it simple. All right, now let's take a look at this. ELV, PBTA. PNTX. I think there's another one. Oh. let's get out of. Okay. All right. Let me look at ON net option sentiment before I make this decision. It's at 11. Nah. How do you think we want to add an additional long? Okay. Let us get back Ryan. And then A and F. B and TX. And then we're going to add in video long because that's been looking really good in the signals. And then that is it. We're just flipping a little more neutral. What's going on with ELB? Okay. We have not made many moves this week. Okay, that's all for that. And we're going to do one more thing. We're going to give people like a slightly different look here. Is that what I want? No. Let's not go against the crowd. Always interesting to see who we got here. Oh, look, someone asked for GEV and it's there. All right, we don't need. Whoa, UNH net option sentiment is 100? Anything going on?
Earnings watch, we have Lulu down 13% at the moment.
Oh, GE Verona. That's lower net option sentiment. I'm going to add. It's hard to ignore that UNH 100 net option sentiment. I can't look away from that. What's going on with IBM? That's interesting. I might look to add it tomorrow morning. Only 73 net option sentiment. I'm not all the way. I'm not all the way there on it. All right, now let's just send this sucker out. Hard to get these characters down sometimes. All right, do we have the screener live yet? Nope. All right, we might not sit there and wait for it live. Any questions?
There is a question actually from Saucepot asking about some IPOs on SoFi.
Oh yeah, no, I told you to do that. Thank you. What are they?
Tickers VIA. I actually don't know what the companies are because I just see the tickers, but VIA, KLAR, GEMI, and FIGR.
Can you read those one more time?
So VIA, then KLAR, then GEMI, and then
EMI?
FIGR. GEMI,
Mm-hmm.
and then FIGR.
Okay. Are any of those? What are the when do those go? Because I want to research them for Monday. I'm assuming we have time until Monday.
Let's see if I could find the time frame on them. Okay, so I looked up GEMI. That's September 12th.
Oh, blockchain lender FIGR. Okay, we're definitely getting in on that.
The other one was September 12th too, via.
The other one's Gemini. Okay, yeah, we're definitely playing those.
Oh, KLAR is Klarna. We've talked about them before.
Yeah, screw a Klarna. I don't like Klarna. I might do well, but I think they're a terrible company. But yeah, we should play Gemini and FIGR. All right. Thanks for bringing that to my attention as instructed. Anyone on Monday, I mean, I'll do a little research, but if someone has perception around the social sentiment on these, especially like what's going on in Reddit, I would be interested in that perspective. I mean, I could look at it too, but Always like to hear other perspectives as well.
I will scan socials as well, do my research over the weekend on these stocks. But that's going to be it. We're back to normal times next week. So Monday, 11 a.m., Wednesday, 3 p.m. Have a great rest of your week, everybody. Saucepat said KLAR, Klarna, has good social sentiment on Reddit. You're not convinced, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's just what people know. I mean, it probably is enough to carry it forward. But yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Well, alrighty. Thank you all. Thank you, George. See you all on Monday.